Population biology is the study of populations and the factors that affect them. Some things related to population biology are population growth, regulation, and dynamics, as well as things such as symbiosis, mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism, as well as environmental feedback, and things such as communities and niches. In biology, a niche is basically every aspect of a species, from its place in the ecosystem to its habitat, behavior, breeding, diet, as well as its predators and prey. For example, a worker bee's niche would be to make honey, pollinate flowers, drink nectar, and to build and protect the beehive. The niche of a queen bee would be to lay eggs for the hive's next generation of offspring and to release chemicals that control the behavior of the colony.
Symbiosis is a very close and long-term relationship between two different species. Symbiotic relationships include things such as one organism living on another or one living inside the other. There are three major types of symbiosis: parasitism, commensalism, and mutualism. Parasitism is when one is positively affected and the other is negatively affected. Commensalism is when both are neither positively or negatively affected, or when one is positively affected and the other is not affected at all. Mutualism is when both benefit positively from the relationship. An example of a mutualistic relationship would be between humans and the bacteria that live in our large intestine. The bacteria help feed on food that we can't digest, and we provide them with the food they need to live. An example of a parasitic relationship would be fleas feeding on the blood of other animals to stay alive. The fleas feed on our blood to stay alive, but they provide no benefit to us and actually hurt us. An example of a commensalistic relationship would be the relationship between barnacles and whales. The barnacle attaches to the bottom of a whale so that it can move closer to its food sources, but the whale is neither positively or negatively affected by this.
A community is an interacting group of various species in a common location. An example of a community would be a forest of trees, the various plants that inhabit the soil, the bacteria and fungus in the soil, as well as the various animals that inhabit the forest and soil. Factors that determine the overall structure of a community are the number of species, the abundance of each species, how these species interact, and how the community returns to equilibrium after.
Predation is a biological interaction that occurs when a predator feeds on its prey. While predators and prey usually refer to two living beings, the term can also be used to refer to animals and plants. One important thing about predator-prey relationships is that they evolve together. The selective pressure imposed on the predator and prey by each other leads to an arms race-like situation between the two. The prey is pressured to evolve better adaptations that will help it survive, and the predator is pressured for traits that will help them hunt their prey more effectively. In parasitism, the parasite will consume nutrients from the host organism. Generally, parasites will not kill their host, as they need to consume nutrients from their own host. This separates them from predators, who will usually kill their prey before eating it. However, there are a group of organisms called parasitoids, which blur the line between predator and parasite. The best example of a parasitoid would be certain species of wasps. These wasps will paralyze its prey by stinging it, but don't kill it. Then, once the prey is immobilized, they lay their eggs inside the prey's body, and once the eggs hatch, the larvae feed on the immobilized prey. Ecosystem feedback plays a major role in predator-prey relationships. An example of a negative feedback loop in these kind of relationships would be in a deer lion population. If the lion population begins to increase, then the deer population will begin to decrease because more lions will begin to prey on them. Once the deer population gets too low, the lion population will start to decrease because they lose their food source. Because of this, the deer population will likely begin to grow again until a state of equilibrium is reached.
Competition is defined as a conflict between two or more organisms for a limited essential resource. There are two types of competition: interference and exploitative. In interference, two organisms will directly fight for resources. Exploitative competition is when an organism competes for resources indirectly. An example of this would be if a certain species of plant would consume nitrogen by absorbing it into their roots. This makes the nitrogen unavailable to the other plants that are close by. Plants that have many roots could eventually kill neighboring plants by getting rid of their nitrogen supply. As you can see, the plant on the left is healthy and growing, while the plant on the right is not growing as well and is beginning to wilt. Competition between two organisms of the same species is called intraspecific competition. Intraspecific competition is used as a way to regulate population dynamics. This is because as the population of a species grows, all these organisms will begin to compete for the same resources. Once there are too many of a species, the population growth will begin to decrease or fall off because there are not enough resources to supply the whole population.